question itself is difficult, but it doesn't mean it should be unsolvable, right? Because it's so easy if you tackle down the question's main essence. Like, it's about a king. Let's dive into the wild question of this. King Henry VIII and his grand monastery makeover, 1534. So he just basically crushed the Catholic churches, monasteries in England, just to replace with his own church in England and being the head of one. And the reason behind that was the denial of the marriage between him and the Catherine of Aragon. I don't know. I don't know what annul means, but it doesn't matter, right? Like 2 years later, Henry VIII introduced a policy titled "The Dissolution of the Monasteries." So he just said, "Okay, let me destroy these monasteries. I just have to dissolve them." And the historians were wondering what had been the cause of this. They asserted that it was probably the cash they wanted in. So I made a prediction, something that's related to the financial benefit. So I mean, the question itself asks which quotation from a scholarly article best supports the assertion of the historians mentioned in the text. So we just have to find the option that supports the historian's assertion, right? So the choice A. At the time of the dissolution of the monasteries, about 2% of the adult male population of England were monks. By 1690, the proportion of the adult male population who were monks was less than 1%. So why is this incorrect? Because it doesn't mention anything that can support the historian's assertion. It might have been correct if the question itself was an inference one, but you can't just put it like the answer of the inference one either, because if you're not talking about the consequences of the work that has been carried out, it could have been the answer, but it's incorrect because it's the consequence of the actions taken by the King Henry VIII. So A is incorrect because it's an effect of the policy. That's it. Choice B. Why is it incorrect? Contemporary description of the dissolution of the monasteries, Michael Sherwood's Valley of the Religious Houses, blah blah blah, recounts witness testimony that monks were allowed to keep the contents of their cells and that the monastery timber was purchased by local yeomen. It just describes the dissolution process. That's it. It doesn't mention anything that can back up the historian's assertion. It just mentions that the process went like this. That's why it's incorrect. Well, if we want to support the historian's assertion, we just have to find the option that supports their claim. Like it was carried out because they needed to find the value of this because they wanted some cash or something like that. So that's why C is correct. Why is this correct? Because in 1535, the year before enacting the dissolution of the monasteries, Henry commissioned a survey of the value of the church holdings in England. The work, performed by sheriffs, bishops, and magistrates, began in January and was swiftly completed by the summer. So the the policy was carried out in 1540, right? And what does he have to do in 1535 if he doesn't want money? Because he just surveyed the value of the church holdings in England so that he can grab those cash in the future. That's why he checked all the stock and measured their value. He wants money. He- He's after the money. He's financially perceived, like motivated by financial finance. He wants the money he can get from selling all the holdings in the church that is to be dissolved. That's why he's um, conducted a survey to measure the values of the holdings. That's why the C is correct. Why check the price? Because he wants to know the value. Easy, right? I mean, why choice D is incorrect? Because it's out of the passage. Doesn't mention anything. Okay. The October 1546 revolt, known as the Pilgrimage of Grace, had several economic motives: high food prices due to a poor harvest the prior year, the solution of the monasteries, which close reliable sources of food and shelter for many, and rents and taxes throughout northern England that were not merely high but predatory. So it mentions something related to this, but it's not given. It wasn't given in the text, and it doesn't make sense if we make this as a correct choice, right? We can just support by doing this, right? I mean, come on, it's incorrect, totally incorrect. So why is it doesn't mess? It doesn't match the prediction. That's why it's incorrect. That's why answer choice is C. That's it.